find ourselves so financially handicapped. And so that is the reason why there is a need to, acquire information, relevant information on financial issues.
Okay, you're explaining that it's about using the resources when it comes to whether money or anything that is of economic value and anything that
Yes.
money has been used to purchase.
Yes.
So financial literacy could also be in the use of the purchased items that you have.
Yes, the purchased items that you have. I mean, you purchase prepaid credits. You don't leave the lights on when going to work and so on and so forth. My mom does something for so many years. She wakes up around 5 a.m. to put off the security lights. And so those are things that you need to watch. Not only the money that comes to you, but what do you use the money for? Do you leave the engine on and engage in long conversations because you think you have a full tank and so on and so forth? You close the tap so well and make sure the water doesn't drip and waste away and so on and so forth. And so it's not about the money that comes to you and how you spend it, but whatever you spend it on, you should also make sure you are using it to the best of your ability, most effectively and most efficiently, as it were.
So I've heard people say you cut your coat according to your cloth. Is it the same with finances when it comes to what's coming in and what's going out?
Yeah, very, very important. You cut your coat according to your cloth. Some say you cut your coat according to your size. But your size, the cloth may not fit your size, and so you need to change the size. If you were slim, you could have a long sleeve and so on, but if you are big, the same piece of cloth may not be able to give you a long sleeve. Maybe you could just have one sleeve. And so you have to go sleeveless and so on and so forth. So you cut your coat according to your cloth, and so you expend the resources that you have and not what you do not have. And so I think it's a good statement to say you cut your coat according to your cloth and not your size.
Where should we begin when it comes to managing our finances? It's January, probably one of the most expensive months of the year, because we've already spent loads of money during the holiday break.
Yeah.
And then schools will be reopening very soon. We'll have to pay fees, buy books and whatnot. So where should we begin to structure our finances in a new year?
Well, one would say you knew it was coming. When you were spending during the holidays, you were certain that, a time will come when you have to pay school fees again and so on and so forth. And January, some people say it's 131 days, a very long month. So it's a tough one. However, we need to begin with ourselves. We need to have a second look at the resources we have and put in measures to ensure that we expend those resources very well. Other than that, we would be paralyzed by the situation and then, don't know what to do next.
So share some tips on managing our finances with us. What are some of the key areas we should look at?
Yeah, fundamentally, we need to appreciate the relevance of money. And I've heard people say money is not important. Money comes and goes.
Money is
and
not important.
Yes.
They should
People
send it to our account.
yes. And so, when I conduct seminars, I ask who thinks money is important, and there's a mixed feeling. Okay, who wants money? And then everybody,
Don't you
hands
have
go up.
an account saying Sikai Moja?
Well, some people think that it's not important. It comes and goes, and so you don't need to
The
give
money
it
can't
attention.
buy happiness. People.
Yes, that is what they say. But even Ecclesiastes chapter 10 verse 19, tells us that money gives you everything. It says a party gives laughter, wine gives happiness, but money gives you everything. And so it's not something that you can just relegate to the background. Money is very, very relevant. And so when we understand the relevance of money in our lives as economic beings, then we are also getting to appreciate the need to obtain financial information and be financial literate. Put a chemistry professor in the cockpit to pilot a plane, and there will be disaster, you see. And so that's the reason why people access money or possess money, and because they are unable to manage it well, sooner or later they find themselves complaining again. And so it's very, very important to recognize the relevance of money in our lives, and then beyond that, know how to go about it.
So when you
Its
talk about
utilization.
the relevance of money,
Yeah.
explain to us what that means. You're saying that we've made examples. It can get you a few things? Is it just thinking about the material things that money could get you that makes money relevant?
Well, when you look at the various aspects of our lives, our spiritual life, our social life, our emotional lives, our physical lives, you cannot take money out of the equation.
There's no romance without finance.
Yes, you go to church, you need to give an offering. You go to church and there is someone in need within the church, you need to assist the person. You go to church and you do not have the power of healing to heal someone who is sick. But if you have money, you could send a person to the hospital. And that is also another form of healing. You see, so the uses of money in our lives points to the fact that we cannot take money out of the economic equation of life. And so be it from birthday presents to payment of school fees, even to giving someone a befitting burial, all these things require money. And so we cannot just take it out of the equation. It is relevant to know, it's important to know how relevant it is, and then know how to apply it in order to be able to get the best out of the resources you have available.
I'm seeing some charts on our wall now, and it's talking about money management. Do you want to take us through what we are seeing? I see an income which is in the first circle up the wall, and it looks like about 100 Ghana cedis.
Yes. This is what I call the money management cycle.
Okay.
And so everyone who earns or receives money should make sure that the money goes through this cycle. Invariably, these are the cycles you need to go through. And what is up there, for instance, talks about how our default conditioning is when it comes to the management of money. Someone earns or receives money 100 cedis, and let us say the person earns a salary of 100 cedis. It's saved in the person's account. So the next stage is the allocation. You need to sit down.
What's the 90 beside the 100? It looks like somebody's blood pressure.
Yeah, so that
100 over 90.
That is when we go through the cycle, you know where that comes from.
Okay.
You see, so the typical income earner, for instance, sends 100 Ghana cedis.
Yep.
And the 100 Ghana cedis is paid into the bank accounts. Maybe you go and do a menial job and you are paid 100 cedis. It's on your Momo wallet, it's in your wallet, in your pocket, and so on. And so the money is safe. That is saved. That is the implication of the save we have there. Okay. Now, a person needs to sit down and allocate the money. This is how much I have. This is how much I'm supposed to spend, and so on and so forth. The person, mostly people don't save. They don't sit down to allocate the resources, and then they don't also invest any portion of the money, and then they go straight to spend. And in many cases, because the spending, because of the expectation of the income the next month, they spend more than they actually earned. And so you realize that the spending is 110 because this person expects to earn another 100 the following month or after the following work or service or whatever. And so the person ends up spending 110 in anticipation of getting another 100 the following month. But when you overspend your income, what it means is that you do not have 100 the following month, but you have 90. And so it goes like that until a time where you realize that almost all the money that you receive goes into the servicing of debt. And so that is the money management cycle. When you earn or receive money, you need to save it, sit down and allocate the resources, invest some before you spend, and then it goes like that.
So ideally, what percentages would we be talking about? Should it be bespoke to each person, or are there general rules of allocation and investment based on the incomes that a person gets?
That's a very good question. And when it's easier when you apportion your available resources, financial resources, in percentages, and that is where it is relevant for everyone to have a personal budget. And when you have a personal budget, you allocate the resources based on percentages. Now, the percentage that works for someone may not be what works for another. And for people who have nurtured some financial discipline and would want to, up their game, it will be easier for them to use certain high percentages. For those who are beginning, they could begin with 1%, and then every now and then increase it gradually until they get comfortable. And so it is the percentages are relevant, but it doesn't work for the same percentage doesn't work for everybody.
So ideally, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking if I know that I have an income of X amount, I need to chart or write down what I'm spending the monies on.
Yes.
And based on that, figure out how much I'm spending in the month and see if it tallies with what's coming in.
Yes.
And if I have a little left over to save, but you're saying the saving should come. Explain, just think through that with me.
Yes. When the resources, when you receive money, you earn or receive money, what the impulsive conditioning is for us to just spend.
Yeah, we spend before the money arrives.
Because we have things that we need, and there are people who find joy in just buying things and acquiring things, and it's as if you've been charmed. Whenever you have some money coming in, people start calling you for favors and so on and so forth.
Because they know
yes.
Mundai.
And so it is very important for you to deliberately allocate the resources that you have available. And so, I mean, going forward, we'll be looking at the personal budget template.
All right. And so I see a personal development one also on the screen, and it's talking about emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and social.
Yes.
Are those needs
and so,
in that oval?
I mean, this one only goes to tell you about how money affects every part of our lives. And so you need to have a personal development when it comes to money. You need to develop yourself. That is your aptitude about money, because the money eventually affects all these parts of your life: your mental life, physical life, social life, spiritual life, emotional life. When money is something you don't want to worry about, you realize that there are some improvements in all these areas of your life. And so whenever we begin talking about money, I always want people to try and admit that they need to develop themselves personally, and admit that money is important and I need to obtain information about money. That heightens your awareness about money, what it is and how it works. And then beyond that, you develop a personal budget which tells you how much you expect or how much you have coming in and how to allocate those resources, so that you do not find yourself wasting resources at the end of the day.
So you're going to give us an idea of what a personal budget template looks like.
Yes.
Okay, so that will be on your screens pretty shortly. We are having a chat on financial literacy. It's the start of the year, and all of us are trying to organize our whole lives and our finances in particular, so that other aspects of our life can run a bit more smoothly. You can be a part of this conversation. Our WhatsApp number is 055-5561-034. I'll be taking your messages in a couple of minutes, so do send any questions you may have across 055-5561-034, or leave them on our social media handles at GTV Ghana. Basil Damankah is a researcher, author, and speaker in the areas of financial literacy, personal and business development, and he will have some answers for you on GTV Breakfast. So, Basil, talk us through what this template is supposed to teach us.
Yeah, as I said, it's first and foremost, we need to understand that no amount of money is enough for anyone. The more you earn, the more you want to spend. That is the Parkinson's disease. You know, when there was a seminar, for instance, when I asked the audience, how many of you here would be comfortable on 100% more of your salary? You know, and hands went up. If I had 100% more, I'll be fine.
You wouldn't.
You get it. And then we say, okay, we passed pieces of papers around and said, write your salary. And there were people in the audience who were earning 2 or 3 times other people. And they all thought that's 2 times their salary. And so you ask them to go back. When you go back 2-3 years, how much were you earning? And it was much less than 50% of what you have. And so we need to understand that no amount of money is enough for anybody.
It's like the human resource principle: a satisfied need no longer motivates.
Yes.
So if you have it already, it doesn't cut anymore.
And so what is important is to make what you have enough for you at the interim, and then also build on that, so that when you move up the economic status scale, as I put it, you also get more comfortable. The idea is to get financially independent, where you're able to live a sustained lifestyle without working. But there is a place you need to begin. You need to begin with yourself, with a personal budget, and then build it up from there. And so with the personal budget templates that I'll be speaking on, it is to guide you to be disciplined enough to live within your means.
Okay.
And so this is for someone with a fixed income. So
And
let's
it's
assume,
$800.
yes,
Let's say CDs.
let's say CDs. Let's say CDs. So you have 800 Ghana CDs as your net salary, your salary that comes into your bank accounts every month, and then you have other income. Maybe as a student, you were given money by your parents. Maybe you were given some tips at a restaurant that you work, wherever it is. And so you have a fixed income of 200. You have other incomes. Because sometimes when you receive other income, what we do is, oh, this one is just on the side, so let's just spend it. You buy credits, you buy a phone, or so on and so forth. But to instill financial discipline in your life, you need to put together the other income. And so in a month's salary 800, other income 200, you have 1,000 Ghana cedis. So what you need to sit down is allocate, decide or plan how you are going to go about the allocation of these resources. And so if you're a believer in tithing, in giving, you can allocate 10%. And as I said, there are percentages that wouldn't work for anybody, everybody. If you've not done it before, it's not something you practice, 10% might be outrageous. And so you might say, oh, let me start with 1%, 2%, 5%, so on and so forth. But ideally, if you begin with 10%, 10% goes to your tithes, and then 10% goes to investment. Investment is putting it aside, because a time may come when you'll not be able to do what you did to earn that income. And so that amounts to paying yourself first, as George Clayson will rightly say. So you pay yourself first
Is
with
it
10%.
the same as saving?
No, it's
The
not the same as
investment?
saving.
Okay.
It's
So
not the
if you
same as
intend
saving.
to save anything else, you need to do that on top of the investment.
Yes, please.
So that's the reserve?
Yes, that's a reserve.
Okay.
And so you pay your tithes, you give to someone, and you realize that paying your tithes, there are people who do not really appreciate the concept of tithing, but
Some don't believe in
yes,
the concept of
yes,
tithing.
but every human being believes in the need to help other people. And so you may not call it tithe, but it may be resources allocated from your salary or your income
That goes towards
helping
someone
other
else's
people.
needs.
Yes. And so once that is exhausted for the month, you don't go beyond. Otherwise, you may be loving others more than yourself. And
Yeah,
so,
you can't love your neighbor more.
yes,
The Bible said, love your
yes.
neighbor as yourself.
And so once the money comes into your bank accounts, you don't need to spend everything. And so that 5% there, which is the reserve, is what should be in the account for contingency. Once you allocate 10% for tithing, 10% for investment, and 5% for reserves, then it gives you your expendable income.
Okay.
If we can have the chart,
So
it
whatever
gives
you're
you,
left with after
yes.
you've deducted
yes.
this
So after you deduct your tithes, your
10, 10, and
investments,
5.
and then the 5, then you have 250. So when you deduct, you have a 750. That is your expendable income.
That's how much you have to spend.
How much you have to spend, how much you have to live within. And you see, what the impulsive condition is that, look, I have 1,000 cedis, so I can spend 1,000 cedis. But with financial discipline, the personal budget template, you have 750 cedis, even though you earn 1,000 cedis. So your job is to live within
The 750.
the 750. You get it?
Yeah.
And so over your working life, when you are able to keep this discipline, then you realize there is a 15% debt. Now, some people have dug themselves into, holes of debt. And every now and then, their financial lives are in a mess because of debt. And so what you want to do is to pay off your debt quickly so that you'll be free. Now, there is what I call destructive debt and productive debt. Destructive debt is where you borrow to do something that doesn't yield you returns.
So you borrow to buy a dress,
You borrow to buy
or
a dress,
a pair of shoes,
a phone, and you drop the phone.
and you're wearing it to a place where you're not making money. So if you're an MC, if you're a cafe day and you're emceeing an event, and you've bought a kaftan or a shoe, you know that where you're going to earn some money, which would pay for.
Which would pay for. And that is productive, because they are going to, you need to, appear to fit the occasion, and they are going to pay you well, And so once you buy the dress, it is productive because it is enhancing what you are doing as an income earner. But when you are using it for something that doesn't yield anything, that is destructive. And if you have borrowed such amount of money in the past, your job at this point is to try and defray that. And that is where you expend 15% of your expendable income on the debt. And Personal development is also very important. You need to buy books. Probably you want to save towards going to school and so on and so forth. You need to also, allocate part of your income for that. Then beyond that, you have what is left to spend on your recurrent items.
So in effect, you only really have 600 cedis.
Yes,
because
yes.
if you're deducting all these things, that's almost half your money
Yes,
gone.
yes. So in effect, you have 600 cedis to spend out of the 1,000 that you have earned.
It looks like a 60% of your
yes, yes. And that is what a lot of people do not appreciate. They think, no, I've earned 1,000 cedis, I need to spend 1,000 cedis. And when you do this over a sustained period of time, you realize that you are building capital, you are earning more, and you are becoming financially comfortable.
But so you are saying that this allocation for other expenses,
Yeah.
that's where your prepaid credit will come from.
Yes,
that's
your
where your
rent,
fuel
yes,
and your transport will
yes,
come from.
yes.
That's where rent, the children's school fees,
yes.
it will all come from that.
That's 600.
That's 600
Yes,
cedis.
yes. Very, very important. Now, you may see it not to be so practical, but
It's
when
not very practical to
yes,
me.
yes. I mean, a lot of people will say, "Oh, how can I earn 1,000 and spend only 600?" Because the condition has been that, when I enter, let me spend it just this month. Next month, I'll get another 1,000. But as I said, we are unsatiable beings. We don't ever get
not
enough.
Satisfied.
You get it. So if you don't lock in this discipline and say, this is the budget I've prepared and what I'm going to go by, I conducted a few seminars on this, and there's one of my friends who got hold on this. He will never give you beyond what he can or what he has allocated. He has said, I have 1,000 cedis. So by the grace of God that I had this money, I think I need to help somebody. So I'll allocate 100 cedis out of this 1,000 for anyone who needs help. But beyond that, that's all I have.
So if nobody needs help that month, can you help yourself with the 1,000?
Oh, if nobody, by all means, people will need help. And so it's just a matter of allocation. It's just like your tithe. Okay, things like the COVID era, things will happen and you don't go to. Things happen. You're on lockdown. You don't go to church. So do you see that the income that keeps coming in, you will not pay your tithe on it? No, and so you need to just reserve those resources to ensure that, as and when the needs arise, you are able to help those who need help.
Right. So I'm going to try and get a few messages. Great show and great outlooks is what Meshach is saying. Bismarck joins and is asking for a contact. We'll get back to you, Bismarck. So here's one about specifically what you're talking about. If I'm earning 500 and the budget for my food alone is 600, that's I'm doing 20 a day without anything. How can I be following on or adhering to these structures that you're telling us? So it's hard when the income and the expenditure are even at a mismatch in the first place. So if he spends 20 cedis on food a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, assuming he eats 3 meals, he's not even cutting it. So where does all these percentages
this is where branch comes in. Back in the days when we were in school, you didn't have the luxury of the resources to, eat 3 times a day. So sometimes you buy the beans and gari. You ask the lady for more gari, and then you go and put it in your room and go for lectures, so that by the time you come, it will have swollen so well, And so, as I said earlier, no amount of money is enough, and so there are two solutions to this problem.
Okay.
You either find other ways of increasing your income or reduce your expenditure.
But if only the food expense is 20 cedis, what can you reduce about a 20 cedi a day food budget?
Spiritual exercise also helps. You should eat much less to save some money.
Or fast.
Yeah.
But you can't fast every day. Yeah. Another message for you, saying you're a very eloquent speaker. Simplifying money and financial literacy for some of us who think money matters is a discussion only for the bankers. I'd really love to receive money education every day on hashtag GTV Breakfast. I love that hashtag. GTV, please bring him on the show every morning. Kudos. Peter is watching us live from the US of A. Thank you so much, Peter, for sending that message. Hi, how can students also save, especially university students? So there's a tier coming down his face. I don't know if he's crying with this comment. How can students
You see,
also become financial literates?
the culture, it's something that you need to develop. It is not a habit to develop when you are financially comfortable. You see, so when you you can set aside just 5 Ghana cedis a week. Let's say your pocket money is 200 Ghana cedis for a week or even for a whole month. You just discipline yourself and said, okay, I'm not spending everything. Now, when you begin to realize that you are building some financial base from your seemingly limited resources, it exudes your confidence, and then you continue to save. And so anytime money comes into your hands, you know that I have to reserve some for, to take care of.
More messages coming in. Priest Boama, I think he knows you. Shadrach from Lai said, Dr. Priest Basil Damankah Senior. Hey, it's like he has your birth certificate too, because he mentioned all your names. Has been my life coach since 2015 and has really impacted greatly on my life financially. I have been able to complete my degree course by myself at UEW due to his impartation of financial literacy. So that's quite an exciting concept.
Yes.
Your advice is, from the money cycle that we talked about, and we'll be putting that again on the screen pretty shortly, to earn the money and save something first before we allocate, and then also invest something. I'm seeing that you put a kind of structure
that
on
is
the screen.
The money management cycle. When you earn or receive the money, the explanation for the save you see there is to ensure that the money is intact. Okay. Make sure when you receive 100 Ghana cedis, make sure it's intact until you're able to sit to allocate the money. So when you fail to allocate the money and you start spending, before you realize it's all gone. But when you have locked in that personal budget template, you sit down and say, okay, I have 100, this is how I'm going about expending that 100 cedis. Then it becomes easier for you to build capital.
Why do you think it's become hard for some people to appreciate these principles of money management and thinking that it's only for the reserve of a certain group of people? Where did we miss the education in that?
I think it comes from the orientation we receive during childhood. It's an area that parents do not deliberately, instruct their kids about. Some parents even punish their children for being thrifty. A parent once got to me and said, every now and then my son saves half of the money I gave him to send to school, and I think he's punishing himself. I said, no. He has the spirit of greatness in him, because W. Clement Stone said, if you cannot save money, then the spirit of greatness is not in you. You see, and so we save money, and our parents realize we are saving money, and they take the money from us, and then we have no motivation to save money. And so, from the onset, when we were children, our parents could have taught us, but because they were not taught, and they had a belief that once they earn more money, everything will be fine, we grow finding it difficult.
But we also had piggy banks and susu box and all that. So it could have gone either way, where we grow up knowing that some money needs to go in the susu adika rather than spending.
Yeah, it's really heartwarming to see those susu boxes being sold in traffic and all that. We need to encourage the children to know that, look, any money we give you, you need to save some. How much have you saved? And so some time ago, my niece, I realized she was saving some of her money. And I said, how much do you have? And he said, oh, I have 15 cedis. And I said, okay, if you can keep the 15 cedis to December, I'll double it for you. We need to encourage them. It is not as if we are giving them money or they are making money off us. No. That is a way of teaching them how to be self-reliant, how to be financially independent, by allocating parts of the resources that they have. And beyond just saving money, as I said, how to utilize all economic resources. You don't waste food. Okay, you serve the amount of food you can eat. You don't waste food and throw the rest away. You don't waste water. You don't waste electricity. and so on and so forth. So these are all virtues that we need to implant in the younger ones.
Yeah, because it's funny how these things that you talk about, not wasting food and not wasting water, don't leave the engine running if you don't have to. We don't think that there are ways that we are losing money, because it should be a conscious effort, a deliberate attempt to bring the expenses down, for us to say that if you're brushing your teeth and you open the sink, bring the tap down, brush your teeth, and then rinse. Don't leave the tap running. We don't. How do we make these financial investments and these financial literacy skills a part of our daily lives, so that it does not become like something we have to go an extra mile to bring into our homes and into our lives?
It should be deliberate. It should be deliberate, very, very deliberate. And that is why you need to admit that financial literacy, number one, money is important, and financial literacy is something that we should take very, very seriously. And it should begin from the personal level. Once you begin that as an individual, then you teach it to your children. And children learn by observation. And so when daddy is shaving and leaves the tap running, they realize they think it's okay. When daddy parks and for 15-20 minutes is talking to someone while the engine is on, and we are sitting at the back seats with the air conditioning on, they think it's normal. And so they grow up with that conditioning, and it becomes generational.
Right.
And so it's important that we begin to admit that yes, we've erred in the past. Let us learn how to manage these resources, and let us transfer them to subsequent generations.
Basil, your final words. How do we begin to, what tips can you share with us on these money saving skills that we all need to? You've given us a breakdown of how an amount of money could be allocated into different expense areas, but share some final tips with us before we wrap up.
Yeah, as I said, I just want everybody to appreciate that no amount of money is enough for anybody. Whatever you have, you need to manage it such that going forward in the future, you are able to build capital and then use your money for more productive things. Anytime you earn or receive money, make sure you sit down to plan how to go about the allocation. You could adopt the money management template that I shared, the personal budget template. Allocate the money, and then you know what to use which amount of money for, and then you are good to go.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. I've certainly picked up a few things that